Imagine waking up one morning to find the US dollar collapsing overnight. Banks are in chaos, markets frozen, and two giants stand in the ruins, staring each other down. On one side, the timeless symbol of power, gold, the metal of kings. On the other, the fearless digital challenger, Bitcoin, the so-called digital gold. Both promise safety, both promise freedom, but only one will survive the storm that's coming. Welcome to Hidden Finance File, the channel that exposes the hidden truth behind money, power, and the global economy. Because this isn't just another debate about investments. This is a war between the old world and the new, between something you can hold and something you can only believe in. So stay till the end, because by the time this story ends, you'll know which gold, real or digital, will truly rule the future. For thousands of years, one metal ruled the world. It built empires, destroyed nations, and decided who lived like kings and who died in debt. That metal was gold. From the ancient tombs of pharaohs to the vaults beneath modern banks, gold wasn't just money, it was belief. It was trust, condensed into something you could touch, hold, and hide away when the world went mad. When currencies failed, when empires fell, when governments printed lies on paper, gold remained. It didn't need permission. It didn't need electricity. It just was. But then came a new age. The age of code, not coins. An idea born from distrust, built by those who no longer believed in the system. 2009. While the world was still reeling from the financial crisis, a mysterious figure calling himself Satoshi Nakamoto released something no one had ever seen before. A new form of money that lived on the internet, with no bank, no middleman, and no government in control. It was called Bitcoin. At first, people laughed. Digital money, backed by nothing. It sounded like a nerd's fantasy, but deep down, it carried the same spirit that gold had for centuries: freedom from control. That's why they called it digital gold. See, Bitcoin wasn't designed to replace the dollar. It was designed to replace trust. Because in a world where banks collapse overnight and governments bail out billionaires while citizens lose their savings, trust is the rarest currency of all. And for the first time in history, that trust didn't have to come from kings, presidents, or banks. It came from code. But here's where the story turns. Because while Bitcoin was rewriting the rules of money, gold was quietly waiting, watching, like an old lion in the shadows. When inflation hit the world again in the 2020s, when currencies began losing value faster than ever, gold came roaring back. It reminded the world that history may evolve, but human fear never changes. When people panic, they don't run to digital dreams. They run to something they can hold. By 2025, as global markets shook and wars echoed across continents, investors faced the same question once again. Where is my money truly safe? And that's when the clash began. Gold versus Bitcoin. Old wealth versus new money. Reality versus digital belief. Gold had the legacy. Bitcoin had the revolution. But which one actually holds power in a crisis? Let's go deeper. When you buy gold, you're not just buying metal, you're buying history. You're buying every empire that trusted it before you. You're buying a ticket out of chaos, a way to say, no matter what happens, I still own something real. But when you buy Bitcoin, you're buying rebellion. You're betting against the system itself. It's not about coins. It's about code that says, I don't need permission to own my own money. And that's what makes Bitcoin both powerful and dangerous. Because while gold moves slowly, steadily, like an old king who knows his worth, Bitcoin is wild. It rises and crashes like lightning. One week you're a millionaire, the next week you're back to ramen noodles. And yet, millions still believe. Why? Because Bitcoin gives them something that gold never could: control. No vaults, no banks, no borders, just you and your private key. But here's the twist. Freedom always comes with risk. When governments print money, they can manipulate inflation. When banks fail, they can call for bailouts. But when your Bitcoin wallet disappears or your password is gone, there's no rescue. You are your own bank and your own insurance policy. That's the beauty and the danger of the digital gold. Meanwhile, gold just sits there, heavy, silent, ancient, but unbreakable. It doesn't need an internet connection. It doesn't care about hackers. It doesn't vanish when your Wi-Fi goes out. Gold is patient. It waits. And that's why even the richest billionaires, the same ones who trade crypto every day, still keep part of their wealth in gold. Because deep down, they know one truth. When everything burns, gold still glows. But the world isn't the same anymore. You can't ignore technology. You can't ignore digital freedom. Bitcoin has changed the way we see money forever. Today, nations are experimenting with their own digital currencies. Banks are exploring blockchain systems. Even gold is being tokenized, turned into virtual assets that can be traded online. So maybe this isn't a war between gold and Bitcoin at all. Maybe it's evolution. Maybe the future belongs to both, the old lion and the new wolf, watching each other, learning from each other, reshaping what value really means. But here's the real question. When the next financial crisis hits, when the dollar starts falling and markets crash again, which one will people trust more? The metal that's been trusted for 5,000 years? Or the code that was written just 15 years ago? That's the mystery we'll uncover next, as we dive into how real gold and digital gold are secretly shaping the future of wealth, and why one small decision could change your financial destiny forever. So don't blink, because this battle has just begun. The stage is set. On one side, a shining relic of history. On the other, a blazing spark of the future. Gold and Bitcoin, two kings of value, staring each other down across time itself. For centuries, gold ruled without question. It didn't need to explain its worth. Every empire, every ruler, every war, gold was the final word. When paper currencies burned, gold remained the last refuge of trust. But Bitcoin? Bitcoin was never about trust. It was about freedom. It was about saying, I don't need your bank, your government, or your approval. It was rebellion written in code. And that's why millions rallied behind it. Still, even revolutions face reality. Let's go back to 2021. When Bitcoin hit $69,000, the world thought it had found a new god of money. People sold homes, took loans, even mortgaged their futures to buy digital gold. And for a while, it worked. But then came the crash. Billions wiped out overnight. Crypto exchanges vanished. Dreams turned to dust. Meanwhile, gold, boring, old, heavy gold, quietly rose. It didn't double or triple. It didn't make anyone rich overnight. But it did what it's always done: protect. It simply didn't fall. That's when the truth hit. Bitcoin was a revolution. But gold was insurance. See, Bitcoin lives in the digital world, and that world is fragile. One power outage, one government ban, one lost password, and your fortune is gone. Gold, on the other hand, doesn't need an internet connection. It doesn't depend on a blockchain or an update. It just is. But before you call gold the winner, pause. Because the story doesn't end here. Something incredible happened in 2024 and 2025. A silent bridge began to form between the two worlds. Institutions that once mocked Bitcoin started buying it. Hedge funds began storing both gold and crypto side by side. Even countries like El Salvador and now others began treating Bitcoin as digital reserves, a hedge against collapsing fiat systems. And suddenly, the narrative changed. This wasn't a war anymore. It was a merger. Because if gold represents stability, Bitcoin represents possibility. Gold keeps your wealth safe. Bitcoin gives your wealth wings. And that's when investors realized the smartest strategy isn't to choose between the two. It's to understand when to trust each. When the world is calm and innovation is rising, Bitcoin thrives. When chaos strikes, when banks crumble, when nations print money like confetti, gold holds the line. That's why in the portfolios of billionaires and secret wealth funds, you'll now find both, sitting quietly, side by side. The old lion and the young wolf. Balance and rebellion. But here's something the mainstream doesn't tell you. Behind every crypto rally, behind every gold surge, there's one hidden force moving them both: fear. When people lose faith in governments, they run to Bitcoin. When people lose faith in technology, they run to gold. Either way, they're running from the same thing, a broken system. And that's why this final showdown isn't just about money, it's about trust. The rarest, most expensive thing in the modern world. Let's imagine the next global crisis. A major currency collapses, markets freeze, banks limit withdrawals, the internet stutters under pressure. What happens next? Gold holders dig into vaults, Bitcoin holders check cold wallets, and the rest of the world, the ones still trusting paper money, panic. History doesn't repeat. It rhymes. In 1933, the U.S. government literally banned private gold ownership. People's savings were seized overnight. In 2022, governments froze bank accounts of protesters and sanctioned citizens digitally. Different century, same control. Print unlimited money. What's truly safe? A metal that never dies? Or a code that never sleeps? Maybe. The answer is both. Because gold protects your past. Bitcoin protects your future. And in a world built on illusions of power, maybe real wealth isn't about choosing sides. It's about understanding time. Gold is the memory of money. Bitcoin is the imagination of money. And together, they might just redefine what rich really means. But here's the twist most people miss. Every financial revolution begins with ordinary people making extraordinary decisions. The bankers, the billionaires, they follow the crowd. But the real change begins with someone like you, quietly deciding to learn, to question, to prepare. So as the world argues over which is better, you don't need to pick a side. You just need to be smarter than both. Because in the end, wealth isn't about owning gold or Bitcoin. It's about owning freedom. If this story opened your eyes, don't let it end here. Because on this channel, Hidden Finance File, we go beyond the headlines. We uncover the truth hidden behind global money moves and how they silently shape your future. So, if you're ready to master the secrets of wealth the world doesn't want you to know, hit that subscribe button right now, because the next story might just change how you see money forever.